Good morning and a very warm welcome to everyone joining online, but especially to those here at the Smith Center inside the Science Museum in London. It's fantastic to meet existing and new investors here in person. As you probably already saw in your goodies bag, this isn't the first time we are working together with the Science Museum. Thank you for having us. My name is Moritz, and as Head of Investor Relations, I'm honored to lead you through the day. Let's now have a look at the agenda. Today is all about the next chapter of the TONIES story. We are going to show you exactly how we are moving from being a category creator to becoming a truly global icon. And for that, I'm excited that we have the full management board together on stage for the very first time. Over the next few hours, we will deep dive into the TONIES experience, show you how we are scaling our growth engine, particularly with our US first strategy, and demonstrate the resilience of our financial model that ensures we keep delivering on our promises. Before we kick off with the presentations, just a few quick housekeeping points to ensure a smooth day. First, please take a moment to switch your phones to silent. During the breaks and the product exhibition, there will be enough sounds to make your day. Second, our lawyers have told me to point you to the closest fire exit, here to the left as well as in the back. In case of a fire alarm, please follow the instructions accordingly. Finally, we have a dedicated Q&A session for those that are here in the room scheduled for 1:15 local time, 2:15 Central European time, which will also be streamed online. So please hold your major questions until then. During our working lunch and after the closing remarks, we have set up a product exhibition, so you will have plenty of time to play around and chat with the management team. And now, let's kick the day off.
Good morning. Welcome to our very first Capital Market Days here at TONIES. I'm Tobias Wann. I've been the CEO of TONIES for the last 2.5 years. So why a Capital Market Day? Why now? About 10 years ago, our very first TONIE box launched in Germany. After our two founders, where actually one of them is here today in the room, Patrick Fassbender. Welcome, Patrick. Great to have you here. Spent three years developing it. About 5 years ago, TONIES IPO'd at the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. This was the last time we prepared a midterm outlook for you. Since then, a lot has changed, and a lot will change in the next 3 to 5 years. This is why we are here today. For the next 45 minutes, I want to tell you what you can expect from TONIES and what it means for what comes next. How we move from a category creator to a true global icon. But before I tell you anything about our markets, our financials, our strategy, I want to start somewhere else, with a child. Imagine her, 4 years old, on the floor of her bedroom at the end of a long day. What she needs most is to feel safe, to listen, to explore, to invent stories in her own mind, to be in her own world on her own terms. Now imagine her parents in the next room, proud of her curiosity, wanting her to grow, but also tired, juggling work, dinner, screens everywhere. The constant negotiation of just one more video. Both have very real, very human needs. She needs security, imagination, a sense of agency over her own world. Her parents need peace of mind to know what's in her hands is safe, age-appropriate, and genuinely good for her. And nowadays, meeting both of those needs at once has become a lot harder. Childhood is changing. It's all over the news these days, and it's increasingly shaped by passive, algorithm-driven, screen-based content. Parents can see it. Researchers can see it. And now governments are actually acting on it. The headlines are up here. Screen time is among the top parental health concerns. Phone bans spreading through schools worldwide. The anxious generation entering the mainstream. Parents aren't looking to ban technology. They're looking for an alternative, something that gives their child genuine agency and gives them a genuine peace of mind. That space between what a child needs and what a parent can trust is exactly where Tonies lives. More than 12 million Tonie boxes have made it into families' lives. Yes, 12 million. Over the last 10 years, we built something that had never existed before. The world's largest interactive audio platform for children. Ears first by design. Why ears first? Because imagination starts with the ears, not the eyes. When a child hears a story without a screen in front of them, they are not passive. They are building the world in their own mind. The director, the set designer, the main character, all at once. We call this magic, not machinery, exploration, not consumption. The child is in control of the experience. A child picks up a Tonie, places it on the box, and hears their favorite story begin. A small act of choice that opens a whole new world for them. They did that. Not an algorithm, not a recommendation engine, not a parent deciding for them. And on the other side of that choice is imagination, discovery, learning, play. A Tonie picked up at the age of 2 leads to a different one at the age of 4 and another one at 7. Children grow with us, not out of us. That's why families stay with us for years and not weeks. And building a company that makes that possible, that is the mission we all signed up for when we joined Tonies. Let me briefly introduce the incredible team that drives it day to day and that is here today to talk it through with you. First of all, Ginny McCormick, our Chief Experience Officer, a highly experienced industry leader who spent many years at Hasbro and Amazon and joined us about 2 years ago. Chief Experience Officer. I know this needs explanation. Her role uniquely combines experience. That is what Tonies is all about. In our case, that means marketing, product, and content. And Ginny, in those 2 years, has already delivered exceptional results. Just think of the launch of the beautiful Toniebox 2 last year. Christoph Frese, our Chief Revenue Officer. He built our US business from 0 to over $300 million in just a few years. His entrepreneurial perspective is invaluable to our growth story. Both Ginny and Christoph are actually based out of the US, and as you will hear in the next few hours, that is not coincidental. And then, of course, Hans-Jörg Müller, our Chief Financial Officer, who joined us with deep experience in subscription, platform, and digital models, thanks to his prior roles at Netflix and Electronic Arts. And he has clearly also a strong track record of driving profitable growth. Behind the 4 of us stand over 600 Tonies, as we call them, the people who actually make the magic around the world. Now, before the 3 take you through their details, I want to give you my perspective of the future ahead of us. Let me start with the business model. Tonies is a great business model because families join an ecosystem and because our product delivers for them over the course of multiple years again and again. Tonies is built on subscription-like economics. Now, how does this work? It all starts with the box. As I said, more than 12 million to date. And a box is always just the start of the beginning of the relationship. With each box come 20 Tonie figurine purchases over the first 4.5 years. Picked from over 1,500 Tonies, 3,500 digital titles, and more than 350 licensing partners. Many families stay with us much longer. Actually, many of the first Tonie boxes sold in 2016 are still in use today after 10 years. We also leverage our own IP, and there's more from digital offers to accessories like headphones. Very important for you to take home. We don't sell a product once. We earn a place in a family's routine, and the relationship compounds from there. And the market is noticing. We are the recognized leader across toy in all our markets, and that's what Circana says, the gold standard for tracking retail consumer spend. We are growing faster than any other preschool brand in the US, Germany, UK, France, both for the full year of 2025 and again in the first quarter of 2026. All 4 markets simultaneously. And today we are already the #1 preschool brand in Germany, the UK, and in France, and as of the last quarter, Q1, also #2 in the US. Australia, New Zealand is not on the slide here, but it's the same pattern. We are the fastest growing, and also after just 1.5 years after the launch, we are the #1 property in preschool toys in the first quarter of 2026 in Australia. This is what just a few years of execution look like. The US launched just 5 years ago. And as you can see, the pace at which we grow is still leading the industry today. Again, this is independent third-party data. These are not our numbers, their numbers. And yet, in some ways, we are a toy. We spark joy in children's lives. We enable their development. We are part of how they play. But let me be clear. When you look at us only as a toy, you are thinking incorrectly about our category. Tonies is a category creator, sitting at the intersection of several markets. Toy, education, technology, gaming, media streaming. We don't grow with the market. We take share across all of them. This is the pattern actually you hear again and again throughout the day. In each of these markets, we can deliver unique experiences. But what's more, we have parents' trust. Trust in the Tonies brand is the success factor that let us play across them. Our product, as you know, is tactile first and highly durable. Some of you actually know what I usually do to demonstrate that. And funnily enough, most recently, even the German newspapers wrote an article about it. I usually take this box, throw it against the wall, it will still work. I promise I don't do this here today, so you're safe. But now, here's where it gets interesting. You combine that with subscription-like economics, like in media and like in tech. That combination is genuinely rare. And think of the opportunity we have in horizons. The opportunity overall is massive. As our product world expands, market opportunities, they stack on top of each other. We keep driving further addressable space, our early core, our current expansion trajectory, and further potential beyond that. Each of these horizons larger than 100 billion euros. Spanning toy and technology, where we started, now gaming and education. Think of Tony Play or our book and pocket Tonies. Those are the non-fictional Tonies for kids already in school, to media streaming for kids, not too far away probably. This is the total addressable space. And we will grow into this with time. The scale we've reached today means we are already a through line running through childhood for an entire generation. You know these stats, and I get never tired of telling them. More than 12 million Tony boxes in homes around the world. More than 165 million Tonies, the figurines. And the average child spends around 280 minutes a week with their Tony box. That's close to 5 hours of active, screen-free engagement. Now, here's a way to look at those 280 minutes that we report every quarter. It's roughly about 7% of a young child's entire awake time. So the box is not a device used occasionally. This is what it means to be part of the child's daily rhythm. Wake up, play, bedtime. And there's still lots of space for us to grow into. But most important, I think, to all of us here, every additional minute we earn is a minute more of imagination, is a minute less of passive consumption. Shortly after I joined Tonies, I formulated a vision for us to become a global icon. And I made a commitment. Pick a small number of priorities that can get us there and then stick to them. Today, those priorities define what we do, and just as importantly, they define what we do not do. There are three. First, build an ecosystem that compounds value. Second, win internationally, US first. And third, extend our story of reliable, profitable growth. One strategy executed across three fronts. And today you will hear from the three people here responsible for each one of them. Ginny on building an ecosystem that compounds, Christoph on winning internationally, US first, and Hans-Jörg on extending our story of reliable, profitable growth. It's no coincidence that these priorities are also the three elements of how we run through the day-to-day. But before they take the stage, let me give you my CEO view first. Starting with how we are shaping the future of childhood by building an ecosystem that compounds value. The thought I want you to take from this chapter above all else, you are looking at an ecosystem business. This is not just about the box. It's about building a self-compounding system. At the heart of this ecosystem, the device, clearly. Around it, and above the box content portfolio, the Tonies themselves. I'll show a bit more in a few seconds. Beyond that, accessories, and wrapping all of it, the digital experience through our app. No single layer alone creates the value. It's created in the interaction between them. Content drives engagement. Engagement drives habit. Habit drives repeat participation. And the ecosystem grows household lifetime value over time. The discipline I apply is simple. Everything we build must fit and compound within this ecosystem. So to start with, we've been steadily extending that above-the-box portfolio I mentioned, year after year. Think of these as differentiating a child's engagement. We are building breadth so we can be more tailored for different ages and for different use cases. We have book and pocket Tonies, offering non-fictional content for older children. My First Tonie is for the very youngest. From the classic Tonies, right from the start in 2016, to pocket Tonies in 23, book Tonies in 24, My First Tonies and Tony Play as major innovations around the Toniebox 2 launch in 2025, to now Cuddle Tonies, our newest addition this year. Each new format means a new way into the ecosystem and a new reason for a family to stay longer. Like with any ecosystem, we are backwards compatible. A family that enters early doesn't exit when their child grows. The ecosystem grows with them, and so does lifetime value. And of course, there's much more to come. A key part of this ecosystem is content, the heroes of their childhood. They're all here in one ecosystem. Bluey, you heard it yesterday. We just launched, now exclusive to the Toniebox, a major driver of acquisition and retention this year and for the years to come. But there's so much more. Pikachu, Mickey, Peppa, Chase, we have Minecraft and Hot Wheels. It's important for me to say we are not distributors of that content. We invented a completely new way for kids to interact with these characters. Let me show you in one picture. Here you see the sheer breadth. Make a count. It's about 70 Tonies on one slide. But that's less than 5% of the current portfolio. Think about what this means. A child can access all of those with just one platform. When you want to watch your favorite TV show, where do you go? There's so many different offerings, it's fragmented, right? The TONIES platform, however, is not. Now, let's move on to our device strategy. You've heard me say device all the way through these presentations in the past today. And then we launch the upgrade of our wonderful TONIebox from 2016, the TONIebox 2 in 2025, an even better device than we had ever before. But the truth is, and I realized this when I joined, if you want a real ecosystem, we should ultimately no longer think in terms of one device. And therefore, let me say this is my personal one more thing moment of this presentation. In the future, you'll say devices, plural. I'm proud to announce that this year we will launch TONIebox Lite. Here it is. The TONIebox Lite brings what a TONIebox is supposed to. The listening experience that makes TONIES special to more families. An accessible entry point launching in selected markets later this year. And sitting next to our flagship product, TONIebox 2 on shelves. Whatever the device, the TONIES promise doesn't change. You can expect independent, intuitive listening. Extensive content for every age and interest. A tactile experience and a parental peace of mind. Those four things are foundational. They are non-negotiable. They are the defining features of a TONIebox. Now, what a TONIebox Lite adds is, first, addressable market expansion. This is about accessibility. TONIebox Lite will help us lower the barrier to entry into the ecosystem. Second, we have a more compact design, as you can see. The TONIebox Lite is a companion at home and beyond, on family vacation and on the go. And third, we'll see an uptake in multi-device ownership. TONIES families adding devices for siblings or secondary locations for grandma's house or the living room. Same promise, just made to a larger group of people. It means more families, earlier, and more devices per family. And that is as far as we will go today here. Now I know you have many questions. I tell you, in only a few weeks we will release further details on TONIebox Lite. And as you'll be introduced to the product in more depth, the strategy, the specs, the commercial details. Our half-year earnings call on August 20 will provide an ideal opportunity for us to answer all those questions you have. So while we will not take questions on TONIebox Lite today, I'm sorry, let's say it's worthwhile to stay tuned for our next investor interactions in the second half of the year. Now, here comes the second priority. Win internationally, US first. Before I talk about new markets, one thing has to be clear. Growth is not just a game of new markets. We still have a long way to go in the markets we already serve. Take the US, for example, North America. Even there, with all the market-leading success, only around 12% of relevant households have a TONIebox today. 12%. So we are winning the market, and we've still reached just a bit more than 1 household in 10. Now imagine a world where that gets closer to 58%. That's the number we have already reached in DACH, so Germany, Austria, Switzerland. And even there, in DACH, where we are long established since 2016, our ecosystem economics give us tailwinds. We are still growing. Plus 5% in 22 and 23. then plus 11% in 24, and now plus 16% in 25. And we're not done. As I said, Pocket Tonies, Book Tonies, Toniebox 2, Tony Play, all these new product formats with more potential right in front of them. Our first global campaign, new channels, meeting parents where they shop with sales campaigns on TikTok, and now entry into the grocery segment. Now, if you've been paying attention during our Q1 call earlier this year, the first quarter in 2026, up 28% year-on-year in DACH. That reconfirms our momentum. Established markets keep growing when the ecosystem keeps expanding. And beyond DACH and North America, the rest of the world, as we call it, the markets we are already in are still growing rapidly. That's 100% CAGR on a multi-year basis. Each market layers in as it launches. This is what disciplined international expansion looks like. Every region growing. They don't substitute, they're additive. But of course, with all the room to grow, still this market view would feel pretty incomplete without looking at the world still out there. Something I said many, many times. Today we are activated in more than 100 countries. Now contrast that with our current core markets, DACH, North America, UK, Ireland, France, Australia, New Zealand. In all these other markets, we never ran a campaign. We never set up a local team. We never signed a single retailer. Families found us anyway. That is what I call global product market fit. Now, there are more than 570 million households with children in our core age range. 570 million. A very, very large part of that is the world still in front of us. So a fair question you ask now, and actually many of you did in the past, if you have so much demand across the globe, why do you not go there? Why not go to Europe? I mean, we are already established in several European markets and expanding it into more lets us tap into real synergies, into our operations, channel partnerships, the infrastructure we already built. And of course, an existing category, a category we actually created. Then some asked for Latin America. They see the potential to scale across two large language rooms, Spanish and Portuguese. It's just one localization effort, and that opens up many markets. Lastly, Asia. Enormous number of households and strongly digital mobile-first parents with a very strong appetite for premium, trusted brands. The honest answer is we will, but on our own terms. For 2 years, we were very deliberate. Device innovation and winning the US. Now we rebalance that focus towards international growth again. So here's another moment that makes me genuinely excited. I'm proud to announce that by the end of 2027, we plan to launch at least 2 new international markets. This is what our global product market fit allows us to do, and what we intend to use throughout the years to come. And then our clear ambition, we want to be in all major regions by 2030. That brings me to my last topic, our story of reliable, profitable growth, and how all of this translates into a midterm financial ambition. Hans-Jörg will take you deep into financials after lunch. I want to spend just a few minutes on how I think about Tonies' financial path forward. Well, let's start with the past. We continuously delivered. 5 years since IPO. 5 years of delivery. Every year, guidance met or exceeded. From more than 250 million euros in 2021 to 630 million euros in 2025. And I can tell you, this was not always easy. 2021 was still mid-COVID. Who remembers? With the consumer confidence crisis that came with it. And in that same year, we ran our very first full year of US operations and launched France. Last year, it was tariffs, and we mastered them, shifting production to Vietnam in record times, finding the right commercial response, working closely with our partners. 5 years, 5 deliveries, no exception. And the present continues that line. In 2025, we delivered 630 million euros in group revenue at an 8.6% adjusted EBITDA margin. For 2026, I want to reiterate our guidance here loud and clear. More than 760 million euros in group revenue, over 20% growth year-on-year. North America, up more than 30%, and a 9 to 11% adjusted EBITDA margin. And what's even better about that continuous delivery? It's structural. Every box that enters our ecosystem leads to 20 plus Tonies over its lifetime. That's an observed behavior across all cohorts we've ever acquired in every market. More than 60% of the lifetime value of the cohorts we have acquired since 2020 is still in front of us. It's simply the future purchases from boxes already in homes today. On this slide, you're looking at a $1 billion business. One could say quasi-banked. Before I close, one question I know is on your mind, and you probably want to hear from me. Artificial intelligence. I tell you it's on ours too, and I want to be clear how we think about it. It's not hard to find a newspaper headline these days along the lines of those that you can read here. AI productivity is about to become visible and investable, and it will divide the best from the rest. We, here at Tonies, intend to be among the best. First, AI is a structural tailwind, and we are capturing it already today across the value chain. From supply chain to marketing to sales to customer happiness and product management. And honestly, I'm personally always impressed to see this myself at Tonies. It's one thing to hear from someone what AI can do now. It's another thing to see how we put it to work every single day. Just another day, we had a launch assessment for a new product line. Dealing with this new data, some tweaks and twists to handle, we estimated would have meant normally a week for a data analyst, maybe a bit more to put this together. We stitched together Claude and Snowflake, and we did it. I was in the room. We did this in 30 minutes. So not days, half an hour. I considered a CEO task, my CEO task, to empower our Tonies employees in such ways constantly. Another example, and you can check this one out for yourself if you want. We launched an AI chatbot in several markets the other week. The results are quite honestly hard to believe, even for me. One market got an 80% automated resolution rate in the very first week. And our customers are loving it. This is happening now. We are a dynamic, innovative company. We pursued profitable growth for a decade now. We constantly upgrade. AI is just another page in that playbook. Now, if you look at how parents, our customers, are actually thinking about AI, there's a real reason to be bullish. Most parents believe AI will be crucial to their child's career, and I'm sure many of you in this room can relate to this. They see it as beneficial in education. They want their kids to be prepared. Around 2/3 of moms are actually already using AI themselves for parenting tips and recommendations. Parents see the opportunity. They understand that AI is going to fundamentally transform how their kids live as adults, and they want them to be ready for it. And here's where it gets interesting. At the same time, parents are deeply worried. More than 2/3 fear it could hurt their child's creativity. Around 3/4 worry an AI toy might say something inappropriate, untrue, or unsafe. And most parents want stricter guardrails on AI for kids today. So here's the tension. Parents want their kids to benefit from AI, but they're not willing to sacrifice trust to get there. And that's exactly the space we're built for. That tension between the momentum behind AI, the good, and rightful fear of parents of the risk for their children is actually an incredible business opportunity. Figuring that out, contributing to the resolution of that tension is, of course, extremely hard. But we are here at Tonies set up for the challenge. Parental trust is what we've spent more than a decade earning. We can build on that. And we are already at the forefront of the AI opportunity. You know, we have a strong innovation pipeline, and our efforts to build AI into our business are scaling up today. That is what gives me confidence, that AI is an opportunity that we have and should take, all while preserving that unique edge of magic and of sparking joy and imagination. So, now, where does all of this leave the future? It's clear to me our profitable growth story continues. Today in 2025, 630 million euros top line, 8.6% adjusted EBITDA margin. That's the starting point. In the midterm, we target more than 1.4 billion euros in net revenue at a 16 to 18% adjusted EBITDA margin. As we will hopefully convey clearly to you today, there's a clear plan behind this, built on priorities and runways. Over the past years, we promised you to reach our financial targets. More than 250 million euros in 2021. More than 630 million euros in 2025. We delivered continuously over and over again. Today, we are reaching for more than 1.4 billion euros, and we are confident to deliver it again. 1.4 billion. But here's the thing. What we are doing at Tonies is much more than a number on a P&L, more than a revenue line or a margin. It's much more. It is building a true global icon. Think about what a global icon is. We basically covered it all today. It resolves the tension no one else has solved. For us here at Tonies, that means we give children agency, imagination, and joy while giving parents trust and peace of mind. A global icon earns its place and emotional connection in key life moments. Your very first device, the one you still remember when you have children of your own. And the global icon scales across formats, markets, and generations without ever losing its purpose or meaning. That is exactly the company we are building. With that, welcome to the rest of the day. My colleagues will take you through all the details. For those of you who are here in person in the room, we will have time to talk and walk through the immersive experience we've set up. For everyone on the screens, and obviously for everyone in the room, there will be a structured Q&A at the end. Now, please join me in welcoming Ginny, our Chief Experience Officer, on stage.
Thank you, Tobias. Hello, everyone. One more time. Hello. All right. For more than 25 years, I've been helping companies understand and serve families around the world. In fact, last night, after the game, I did a bit of an audit. I've worked on brands that have endured for over 90 years, and some that have only survived for a few. And in that work, I start to understand patterns. What's truly differentiated? What stays with families, as Tobias said, generation after generation? And that's why I'm so excited to be at TONIES. TONIES is one of those rare brands. And I'm going to share with you now how we're shaping the future of childhood. So, in our time together, we're going to cover 3 things. First, why are we uniquely positioned to win in this change with how parents think about entertainment and education for their children? How we are building differentiated content with TONIES Studio and our proprietary data, and how we're engineering the ecosystem to stay with families for long-term engagement. So, let's jump in, or as we say at TONIES, ears up. There is a broader culture shift happening about parenthood. And this presents a new paradox for parents. Their children have more access to content and technology than ever before. And it's exponentially growing every day. And for parents, they are torn. Of course, they want this child to be curious, independent, engaged with the world around them. But at the same time, every parent knows your number one job is to protect that child. And they know they now need to protect against technology. Why? Well, this is the first generation of parents who grew up surrounded by social media, constant connectivity with their phones, algorithmic feeds, and they know firsthand the positives and the negative consequences. Many are conflicted about their own relationship with technology, and they are stopping and pausing before they give that technology to a child whose brain is literally still forming. And this experience is amplified in culture and now validated in research. Unlike 5 or 3 years ago, now there is tremendous research showing the impact of technology and screens, especially on early children, in their cognitive, social, and emotional skills. The research continues to evolve, but the verdict is absolutely clear. Excessive exposure to screens in the early years has developmental trade-offs. And that's why the conversation has shifted from families and schools to a matter of public health, national policies. Over 40 countries are drafting or have already implemented technology limiting access to children. The UK had announcements today. We also saw big shifts. Sweden, who was an early adopter of screens in schools, reversed their position last week. And this is not a trend. This is now, because of the research, an established fact about child development. Over 10 years ago, TONIES pioneered the need for something different for families. It was designed around a powerful belief that children should, of course, have technology and content, but it absolutely has to be delivered in a way that supports their development. I'm excited to share with you, today we are announcing the TONIES Advisory Group. Now, this is a group of experts from around the globe, neuroscientists, educators, psychologists, all who understand what is happening in these trends. They have agreed to share their research and their expertise directly with our teams. This board understands the importance of audio. It's something many of us take for granted. But audio, unlike anything else in early childhood, is impactful. It literally builds your brain through this active engagement. Now, I'm not a scientist, so rather than hear it from me, I thought you may like to hear from some of our experts.
I'm I'm Dr. Marta de Rocchiado. I'm a clinical psychologist and a mum of two. We've got some really great science on audio stories, like listening to stories, which is that it actually switches on the same parts of our brain as reading a book. I think Tonies aligns beautifully with all of my values. It builds that connection between parents and children. It allows parents to give children something that's meaningful, entertaining, and joyful. The kids are learning something just by listening to that.
I'm Michael Levine. My background is in child development, research, public policy, and philanthropy. Kids are consuming so much interactive media, it has caused a societal rift. Audio is an extremely important alternate. Tonies offers an alternative to screen time use. So when Tonies in my family is at its best use, it's in activating them to play together and to connect the learning and the experience that they hear on the Tonies box. That's when the magic happens.
I'm Katharina Meyer-Batrakov, clinical psychologist with focus on child development and child psychology. My main area of focus is infant and child sleep. What fascinates me most about sleep is that many different factors come together. For example, biology, development, emotions, family life, and even culture. I also think the collaboration with experts and scientific evidence is very important. Tonies really try to improve by talking and listening to the needs of families.
So this commitment to research is not new. In fact, for the past 3 years, we've been working to do independent research with leading universities. And we've been doing this both in the US and in Europe. Let's look at the results. This is what independent research says about the impact of having a Tonie box in your household. These are huge shifts. 53% increase in a child's attention. 66 improvement in vocabulary. And most significantly, a 25% drop in excessive screen time when Tonies is in the home. The research validates what families have been telling us for years. Tonie boxes improve their children. They improve everyday family life. They add tremendous value. Now, let's move to our second chapter. Let's talk about content. Content continues to be one of Tonies' strengths and most difficult to replicate tools. This isn't because of the depth of our portfolio, although it is deep, but it's also because our experiences are differentiated. And as we just heard, audio content meets families in a way that traditional media, movies, entertainment often does not. Now, our ecosystem at Tonies is based on a very simple insight. A child's relationship with audio evolves as they grow. At Tonies, we do not believe in one childhood. We don't believe in one audio. There's different ages, there's different stages, there's different moments. And that's why we've developed our ecosystem. Now, of course, we all know Tonies is more than audio. These amazing figurines and our cuddly plush are tactile, right? Because that's a key part of how children learn, especially in those little years. But let's talk about audio for a minute because it gives us a very clear lens to see changes in behaviors, interests, and independence. So let's start with our youngest listeners. Those early sounds, those da-da, become da-da, become words, become da-da, I love you, and that fuels the family. They understand action and reaction through audio. And of course, it's a soothing tool. It gives them emotional regulations at the moments they often need the most. When children grow, 4 to 6, this is the age of their independence. They're choosing their audio. They're creating routines and how they use audio in their everyday life. And this is the age of imagination and discovery. It's the age of questions. When? Where? Why? 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 No, why? This is what happens. Audio brings that to life. And this is how they bond as family. Music, stories. Children grow up, they become more complex. Of course, they can handle more depth in their content, more logic, more rationale, more emotional topics. But they also are looking for interactivity. They want to choose. They want content that connects them with their social environment, which is surging at this point. And this is the phase that they start creation. So all of these insights have been operationalized in our ecosystem. And as you can see, we move families from the very first My First Tonie all the way up to our older content. And what's really critical for you to understand is we never lose connection with the family. We continue to deepen trust year after year, product after product. Now, all of this amazing content is powered by Tonie Studio. As you know, global entertainment brands have their own internal studios. So do we. Tonie Studio is our creative engine. It's where we bring together our expertise in storytelling, child development, and ears first audio. This team is amazing. Combinations of producers, script writers, musicians, audio experts, and we work with a diverse network of partners from ideation to the final production. This team obsesses over details many of you may not initially recognize when you're listening to the audio. Want some examples? How many words per minute can a 2-year-old handle? What's the right way to build suspense that's exciting but not scary for a 7-year-old? These are the expertise that we have in our studio. And this is why, regardless of the age or the stage, our Tonies products have the highest quality bar. And that deepens families' trust and has them come back purchase after purchase. Speaking of trust, we have the trust of over 350 partners who have chosen Tonies to extend their brand. Now, we are not simply another licensee or a distribution outlet, but for partners like Disney, Hasbro, Paramount, we're a translator of their beloved brand. And this has shifted over the years. Initially, we were working with existing stores, but now these partners see us as a true creative partner. We take their IPs and create bespoke, in-character stories, things that you cannot find anywhere else. The reason we can do this is because we have earned this trust. After years and years of high-quality reviews, consistent execution, and of course, the consumer's response. An average of 4.7 stars on Tonies. And the sound we love most, the repeat plays day after day. This trust creates a flywheel. When parents are making choices, some of these partners immediately signal safety to them, quality, and of course, the brands their children know and love. And as we bring more families into our ecosystem, we have broader reach and deepening engagement. And that is incredibly valuable to these partners. So this wheel connects, and it's very difficult for anyone else to disrupt, which is why this partner chose to launch exclusively on Tonies. Pokemon. #1 global toy property for 4 years. It's a phenomenon. Why? Well, it's equally appealing to children and the parents who grew up with this decades and decades ago. It has cultural scale, nostalgia, and enduring fandom. This is the type of partner that can immediately extend our reach and also serves everyone who's in our ecosystem. Now again, when we work with Pokemon, they have a deep canon of stories, of course, but we're not using their stories. They entrusted Tonie Studio to create exclusive content based on their characters. I'm super proud of this work. I had to beg for a sneak peek. So, for your ears only.
Straight out of the Pokeball and already soaking everything in sight. Young trainers, do you know who this playful little Pokemon might be? That's right. It's Squirtle!
We are so excited. Obviously, Pokemon fuels collectability, and we can see this influencing the Tonies ecosystem. Also, Pokemon has a wild fan community, so I was thrilled to see their response. Across Reddit, fan forums, you see this comment over and over and over again. I don't even have a child, and I cannot wait to buy these Pokemon Tonies. Now, let's talk about a capability that I think at Tonies often is misunderstood by people from the outside. Many companies talk about content, right? And they talk about a library. At Tonies, for us, content is a system. It's one that continuously improves with every listen. Of course, we have sales data and we have download data, but we have much more. We understand how families use our product. We understand when they put a Tonie on the box, when they pick it up, when they repeat it, what time of day they're listening, how routines form. And of course, this data is all captured within local guidelines. But with over 165 million Tonies sold, that's a lot of data to learn from. And we put that in practice. So let me give you a very simple example. When we initially launched our Paw Patrol Tonies, we were working with Paramount and their existing stories. And we saw how children put them on, when they listened, how often they came back. And then we compared it to other content within our portfolio for the age. And then, when it came time to introduce new Paw Patrols based on the new season, we made many improvements. We shifted to add more character voices. We added sound in moments where the story was falling off and not holding children's engagement. We increased audio effects to make moments more dramatic as they imagined. And now these are some of our top performers. So our moat isn't a single title. It's not an individual franchise. But it's our listening and learning system that only Tonies has. Now, let me tell you a story of a brand. It started with a single Tonie, but it became a beloved tradition for families. Using our data, we saw that box usage spiked in evenings if families were putting children to bed. And they were using all kinds of Tonies, some maybe not to the sweetest dreams, maybe some a little more exciting. So we saw the opportunity, and that's what led us to create Sleepy Friends. This is our unique approach to bedtime rituals. It has calm characters, soothing stories, and soundscapes that lull you into the sweetest dreams. And we know that because in over 3 million families, this is their nightly tradition. Sleepy Friends, though, is now moving beyond the box. We are partnering with Carlsen, a leading German publisher, to launch a series of books next year. Of course, this will expand our retail presence. We'll be beyond the Tonies aisle and into books. We'll launch with over 3,500 bookstores in Germany. And this will be a tool to introduce new families to Sleepy Friends, but also Tonies. But the headline I want you to take away is this is a signal of our future. Not only will Tonies be the destination for great childhood brands, we will also be the creator. We will move from licensee to licensor. And this is just beginning. Now our third section, and most critical, how families stay. Why do they continue to age with Tonies? Now, in other children's brands, especially those I've been part of, they have a unique structural challenge. They focus on segments like infant or preschool, and that means growth requires constantly acquiring new households, younger children. That's not a barrier for Tonies. And in this chart, you can see how households evolve with us. My first Tonies, our first listening experience, is 80% activated in households with children under the age of 2. That gives us the opportunity to introduce them and create these listening rituals. As children age, you see classic Tonies. It serves our youngest ages, but also ages up with the child in our figurines. Tonie Play, which we were very proud to launch last year, has been activated in households with children 3 to 4, 40% of the time. And Book and Pocket continue to age up as you see children grow with Tonies. So, as you can see, the family stays with us. We do not lose. Now that we've talked about how we grow within an age, let's talk about something equally important. How do we deepen engagement at each age? Well, I'm going to share with you 4 mechanisms that we've established across the portfolio. First is relevance. Kids, just like adults, are trend-driven. They know when something's hot and when it's growing. And that's why at Tonies we stay very close to kids' culture and evaluating emerging trends. A great example of this is Miss Rachel. For those of you who do not know her, she is YouTube's favorite preschool teacher based out of the US. And when we brought her to the Tonies platform, she became #1 in US downloads and #2 in the UK. A phenomenal example of when a creator trusted by parents comes into our ecosystem. Our community responds. Now let's talk about routines. You heard me talk about the relevance of bedtimes and being part of daily family life. Let me share a fact with you. Families who own at least one sleep Tonie double the number of Tonies that they buy in their lifetime. Let that sink in. One single figurine can double a family's spend with Tonies. That is the power of routines. Because that daily listening drives deeper engagement. That leads to more demand, which of course leads to more purchases. Seasonal moments. Now, these are a bit of a special routine. The simplest way to think of them is thinking about holidays. Of course, for children, the most magical time. We have content like Grinch in the US or the Tonies Advent Calendar, which is a Tonies original we created. Now, in Germany, children on average listen 14 minutes per day from December 1st to December 24th. Just of that one Tonie. That is the time they are making their wish list, talking to Santa, and parents are making purchasing decisions. And Tonies is present the entire time. Now let's talk about serialized experiences. This is a new format we've launched from Tonies. Many of you know us for single listening sessions, but now we have content that evolves across multiple listening days. A phenomenal example is our Today with Tonies podcast created in the UK for children under the age of 4. It has daily content and, of course, cliffhangers, like the answer to a joke or riddle that's revealed the next day. So this naturally encourages a listening behavior, and it's how many families start their mornings. This format is an example of how we will enter new categories. I'm sure many of you can immediately see the connections between sports and serialized experiences. We can follow seasons, we can highlight moments, and all the while help Tonies' ears-first experiences come into new households. Sports fandom, its shared identity as a family, is a natural extension. Now, all 4 mechanisms together drive deeper engagement. Relevance, routine, seasonal moments, and serialized experience. And speaking of relevance, I'm sure none of you missed our big news yesterday. Yes, you can believe it, Bluey has come to Tonies.
Believe your ears. Bluey is on Tonies with stories, games on Tonie Play, and heaps more fun on their Tonie box. Believe your ears. Bluey is now on Tonies.
It is impossible for me to overstate the strength of Bluey. And I know for many of you whose YouTube feed or videos does not look like a preschool family or like mine, that may be new news. So let me give you some context. Bluey was the #1 streamed show in the US last year. Please note I did not say number one children. Number one show across all content. And that was for the second consecutive year. 45 billion minutes of Bluey were viewed in the U.S. alone. It's the number one preschool property. And that's why we are so excited to give this to our fans, who reacted with joy, squeals, and a whole lot of social shares yesterday when we sent out our pre-order announcement. And, of course, we're bringing Bluey to Tonies as a full ecosystem launch. For new families who don't know Tonies, there's a Bluey with our beloved Toniebox 2. We also have 3 classic Tonies representing the key characters of Bluey, Bingo, and Muffin. And, of course, a Tonie Play game, so children can have their own interactive stories with Bluey. All of this is surrounded by accessories, our to-go bag, and sleeve. And so this is how we talk about launches, right? Across our whole ecosystem, this content is exclusive to Tonies and uses the entertainment voices. And we know that's very critical to our audience. And while it's fun to talk about the new, I want to also talk about a part of our portfolio that continues to grow. These are our evergreen titles. So at Tonies, content becomes valuable year after year. Here's 3 examples for you. We have our favorite children's song that launched in 21, in 22, Gabby's Dollhouse, and in 23, Spidey. You can see one of our owned originals, but also 2 licensed content, Boy and Girl. And despite having launched years and years ago, these are in the top played Tonies in the past 6 months. Right? Amazing. We haven't done anything to these products, and they continue to delight consumers as they discover our ecosystem. And this is how our launches become long-term assets. Now, I'm going to end with something that I hope you will enjoy as much as I. I want to talk through what happens when families fully engage in the ecosystem. We've talked and shared with you a lot about an average household, right? You know our 280 minutes, they have 1 box, and roughly 20 Tonies over the 4.5 years. But what I want to share with you today is our super fans. So we define these as the top 10% of households that engage in listening and buy. They are completely different. They listen to Tonies 600 minutes a week. They use their box 325 days a year on average. They own over 2 boxes. They were 6 times more likely to upgrade to Toniebox 2. And their collection in that same period goes to 50 Tonies. So hopefully you understand that the average family is not our ceiling. It's our beginning. So we've covered a lot. We've talked about the shift that's happening for modern families and why Tonies is uniquely able to lead. We've talked about how we built differentiated capabilities through our partnerships, through our own IPs, through Tonies Studio, through our listening data. And we talked about a business designed for enduring engagement, one that grows with children, that strengthens the relationship with families over time, and becomes more valuable as our ecosystem expands. And this is what gives us confidence. Confidence in the relevance of this category as solving a need for families. Confidence in the strength of our model, and confidence in our ability to be the next global icon for families. And now we have a 15-minute break.
Announced earlier, we are progressing through the day, and you will now hear from Christoph, our Chief Revenue Officer, on scaling the growth engine, how we win internationally, US first.
Thank you, Tobias. Hello. I'm Christoph Frisi, or Frese, it depends when you live that long in America or in Germany, you don't anymore. Let me tell you actually how I got to Tonies and what made me understood that this product has truly global customer appeal back in 2019. So my son, who lives in California, received a Tony box in California from his grandma in Germany. Basically, within days, Tony time, he coined the word, became his favorite part of the day. It was basically story, music, and at the time, everything dinosaurs, like T-Rex, mosasaurs, all the things. Wow. And the best part was, I got my phone back. So it became his prized possession. Tony box had to go everywhere. And so when it was his turn on sharing day, he took his Tony box to his little preschool in Palo Alto for show and tell. And in the evening, I got this picture. It's him, little Christoph, with his little collection, his friend Michelle. And so I asked him, so you took the box, how'd it go? And he's like, well, now everybody wants one. And Michelle asked only if we had frozen. And Jason next to him, he wanted the Paw Patrol. And by the end of the week, every parent and also every single teacher ultimately was asking me where they could get the singing and talking box that all the children were talking about. So I remember thinking, wow, here we are in Silicon Valley, birthplace, iPhone, iPad, YouTube, social media. And if this product can have such engagement, but also word of mouth, word of kids, word of mom, there's really a much bigger opportunity here. So when the opportunity came to join Tony's and jumpstart the US business, I jumped on it, never looked back. So today, in the next 30 minutes or so, I want to do three things. First, bring you up to speed and show you how we've built Tony's internationally over the last 6 years. Second, explain you a little bit the growth engine. We're going to get a little bit tactical there behind our success. And then third, show why we believe truly the runway ahead is even larger than the road behind us. Past, present, future. Good. So, as Tobias showed us, basically demand is not limited by geography. Today, we operate in 5 markets, 10 countries, yet Tony boxes have been activated all around the world in more than 100 countries. Families are basically already telling us where demand is. Our job is simply to meet them. Our growth was sequenced and intentional. Started out Germany, Austria, Switzerland, then UK, Ireland, United States, 2020. Immediately after France, that helped us unlock Canada, and then we added Australia and New Zealand in 2024. Each market was chosen deliberately. Each market taught us something, and each launch made the next one easier. So, when I had the pleasure to join Tony's, we made just over 100 million euro. That was a big deal back then. And the revenues, though, came entirely from DACH. Since then, we've grown the company more than 6-fold. DACH itself, in the same period, has more than doubled beyond 200 million euros last year. And at the same time, we added another 400 million of additional revenue outside our home market. As you can see, blue, the United States or North America has become our largest market and one of our fastest growing as well, demonstrating that the Tony's model can succeed well beyond its country of origin. In fact, we call the US now our second home market. Importantly, in the same time though, we did not sacrifice profitability to get there. Group profitability actually improved from minus 15 million at that time, when we burned some money, to actually plus 54 million adjusted EBITDA. So that's from minus 8.1 adjusted EBITDA to plus 8.6 within 4 years. Tony's has proven it can scale across markets, grow revenue, and increase profitability at the same time. I think that combination is quite rare. Now let's look at the market that really put our model to the test, the United States. Like Tobias also made it clear, one strategic choice mattered more than any other in the past, to prioritize the US. Not because it's easy, but because it was the largest opportunity and the toughest test. The US has roughly 5 times more children than in Germany, and families also spend more than 1.5 times per child on toys, entertainment, educational product, the intersection where we operate. So together, that creates a 7.5 times larger opportunity than our home market. And we knew if we would succeed there, we would gain more than scale. We would build the capabilities, partnerships, and confidence to expand locally. So there's tremendous value in the US, not just financially, but also strategically. The US is the largest consumer market in the world. One currency, one shared language, yet enough diversity to actually reflect many of the dynamics that we see globally. This is where you compete for attention with the world's strongest and biggest brands. This is where you partner actually with the biggest licensors, the most sophisticated retailers, and also the most advanced digital platforms. I experienced myself. When you sign with Disney, Netflix, or Warner Brothers in the US, every licensor in the world afterwards takes a call. At the same time, and that is really interesting, the US has one of the most consolidated retail landscapes anywhere. Basically, Target, Walmart, and Amazon service more than 85% of preschool consumer demand. So that means when you master this and you earn meaningful space at those 2 retailers, Target and Walmart, for example, every conversation around the world with other retailers truly changes. But perhaps more importantly, the US also made us a better company. To win in the US, we had to grow up fast. We had to strengthen basically every capability across the business, from product to operations to marketing, retention, and also sales. The US was not just a market opportunity. It was our proving ground. So 5 years later, the results speak for themselves. Our largest market, we generate more than $300 million in net revenues. We're present in more than 7,500 point of sales. That means we've earned shelf space virtually everywhere where parents are. So not just Target, Walmart, Amazon is digital, but then also Kohl's, clubs like Sam's Club, Barnes & Noble, Macy's, and many others. In Q1, sales volume, Tonies is the 2nd largest preschool manufacturer in the US, basically just behind Spin Master, who own Paw Patrol and Melissa & Doug, but ahead of Mattel and Hasbro. And that ranking, actually, Circana data, does not even include our own website sales and not fully our Amazon volume. So you make the math where we actually stand. Most importantly, we've achieved the scale while reaching only approximately 12% penetration. Or put differently, nearly 90% of US households with children are still ahead of us. So how do we do it? Well, like Tobias said, we declared the US our 2nd home market. That means we built a real US company then. We built an organization with more than 100 team members in North America and also a new headquarters in Boston. Fun fact, I'm actually, for now, still the only one with a German accent over there. Well, besides the team, our retail strategy really worked. From day one, I would also say it was our retail chess game. We played it very, very deliberately. I knew that Target, or Target, like we call it in California, had to become really our lead retail partner. The Target mom was not just the perfect customer. It is the customer. Bullseye, no pun intended. We knew if Target truly embraces the brand, Walmart would take notice. And that's exactly what happened. So we built Target from, you have 2 on your stripes also there, 4 feet to 8 feet, even now 12 feet. So let me tell you there a little anecdote. From the first meetings, I remember this vividly. they made it very clear that they would never think that our brand could earn more than 4 feet in line at Target. Because they clearly said the productivity we require, Christoph, is really, really high. Well, we own the space, and looks like this now, 12 feet. And as I said, as this Target went from 8 to 12 feet, around that time, Walmart really woke up and was like, oh my God, we're missing market share here. So they positioned us in a way, they call this the trend part, 11 feet, the end of the aisle on the racetrack, in very dominant position, and invested heavily behind the brand.
Walmart has Tonies and espresso, even apples? Who knew?
That was the feature in last year's holiday campaign. And to be clear, you might think, well, you buy yourself into that clip. That's the Walmart clip that runs out. Tonies, Nespresso, Apple, right? No, that kind of visibility at Walmart cannot be earned, cannot be bought. You have to earn it with foot traffic and relevance. And that is what Tonies brings to retailers. So we obviously also had to build cultural relevance in the US. So when we launched TB2, we launched it, at America's most important commercial intersection, Times Square in New York. And we also partnered with some of the most influential voices in children's entertainment. Jeannie introduced earlier Miss Rachel, the nation's #1 preschool teacher, 5 million Instagram followers with her beautiful figurine here, crisscross applesauce. Let me show you how she goes really to battle for us with her fans.
I'm so happy. As an educator, I love screen-free options for kids. I love learning through play and music and imagination.
That's Miss Rachel. Then next up, Lori Berkner. So Lori Berkner is actually one of the most recognized names in children's music in the US with more than 700,000 YouTube subscribers. She's also a partner of us that goes on tour with us and fills actually halls and concert halls with little kids where you take a child to the first concert.
This is the Lori Berkner 1, Tony, and this is the Lori Berkner 2, Tony, and they go really well together.
Of course, they do. Well, and if you ask Snoop Dogg what to get for your kids in the next holiday season, I'll tell you.
What are you waiting on? Y'all got to get your Tony's box, man. I mean, this is the new sensation. The kids are talking about it everywhere.
It's actually really cool, Tony, if you get a hold of it. Bow whistle, and it's about affirmations. It's really, gets you started in the morning. So winning the US ultimately required 3 things: a local team, retail excellence, and then also building cultural relevance. Together, those capabilities have become truly a blueprint for growth in every market we enter. By now, I think you got it. Business model is quite simple. At the core, growth is driven by 2 compounding levers: household acquisition on the one hand and customer lifetime value. Acquisition is driven by the market size, distribution, brand awareness, and lifetime value is driven by the quality of the content experiences, the partnerships we form, and our truly outstanding understanding of our customer behavior. So looking ahead, of course, we expect Toniebooks Lite to help us accelerate household acquisition, as Tobias mentioned. And I think it was also very clear from Jeannie's presentation how our investments in our content experiences and the partnerships we form truly further will accelerate and strengthen our ability to increase lifetime value. Let me show you how this formula played out in numbers in the United States from what we want to share today. That basically our in-store base, cumulative, grew with 104% CAGR between 21 and 25, while the figurines, the attached sold, grew even faster at approximately 139% CAGR. This is truly the compounding effect in action. And importantly, this formula repeats itself. Once a market reaches minimum efficient scale, the in-store base compounds, attached compound, and also with that, obviously, profitability flows. Today, box sales become tomorrow's recurring demand. It's a formula. So So we have shown that the model travels from Germany, our home market, to the US. Two markets with, I think you agree, very different consumer behaviors, media habits, and also retail landscape. But we have seen the same formula drive growth and profitability in very similar ways. Now let's look at the growth engine that powers it. Our growth engine is not built around a single channel. It's built around 3 channels, true omni-channel, each serving a distinct purpose, Tonies.com, wholesale, and marketplaces. Each channel plays its role in acquiring customers, building engagement, and maximizing lifetime value. Together, they form one integrated distribution engine. Let's start with Tonies.com. Yeah, Tonies.com. We call it's the home of the Tonies. It's our most important channel for actually initiating new households and retaining existing ones. Over the last 6 years, we have built what I believe is the best customer acquisition experience in the category. The reason is simple. Unlike traditional retail, we're not limited by shelf space, and we can help every family build the perfect Tonies experience from day one. So let me show you, we do this kind of like half live, how our bundler works on the website. So imagine I buy a set now to get my little niece Hannah, who lives in Washington, D.C., into the system. I take a red Tony box. Now I build her collection. You know she loves Moana. And then, what else? Zootopia. We've been to the movies together. Great film, actually. She's a huge Frozen fan. So Olaf has a cuddle Tony into the bundle. Now, I want to help my sister. So let's definitely get Sleepy Sheep for bedtime. And that will double her future value also, we heard. Then I can't check out without games. Gabby Dollhouse game is actually also really fun if you want to play that. That should be good for attach. Now, system is smart, so you need a controller before you continue. Headsets, because yes, we love when they listen to Tonies, but sometimes it's good they listen by themselves. And then a creative Tony. I'm a big fan, and it's actually, Blanco is a huge SKU because people actually design and make it look like whoever sends the messages. My sister and her daughter are a lot on the go, so I take also a bag to keep it all together when they travel. And then Hannah likes a nightlight at night as well, so the crocodile. Ta-da! Check out $323 plus tax. So before long, I have actually built a completely personalized experience around that child. And ultimately, no retailer can offer that level of personalization, right? No retailer can offer that level of assortment also. And the result is a significant higher basket value at the point of acquisition. But we can clearly see, because customers built their own ecosystem from day one, they also tend to exhibit stronger lifetime value over time. Second channel, that's real fun, wholesale. So our retail partners, right? Our retail partners provide us with basically the physical manifestation of the brand. It gives us, in every country, national reach and builds brand awareness in trusted retail environments, from small mom and pops to big chains, you know. And with that, access to millions of families where they already shop. Being also carried at retailers like Target legitimizes the brand, because ultimately customers trust the creation of those retailers. Unlike online channels, retail allows customers actually to discover the brand physically. They can touch the product. They see all the figurines. They experience also the quality of the product. And in many stores, they can actually press a button and get a taste of the audio experience themselves. That moment really matters, because Tonies is a product that becomes even more compelling once you touch and experience it. Retail plays also a unique role in collection building. Families often come into a store, say, you can only pick one, but well, they leave with several. And wholesale is not simply a distribution channel for us. That's truly, it's a partnership. It's where we introduce the brands to millions of families, where they discover it and their journey begins. Personally, I really love selling to retail. this brand because it's true win-win. Retailers actually prioritize Tonies because we combine this high-value customer that we bring in with the predictable recurring demand that Tobias also talked about. Currently, we're in 25,000 doors, point of sales, globally right now. Fun fact, though, is most retailers initially list this as a toy. Remember Target saying you're only going to get 4 feet? But what they quickly discover is that we behave very differently. At first, they're attracted by our customer profile. We bring in the cool mom that listens to Miss Rachel. So we bring in parents, millennials and Gen Z families. It's a premium customer, above average spending power. But what really changes the conversation is what happens after the first 20 boxes sold. As retailers build what we call their native install base, these households come back and retailers see customers returning again and again and again for characters, games, and accessories. They see a very high purchase frequency, much higher than other brands can offer. And they see growing demand from households they have already acquired themselves. So in many ways, the model resembles the traditional video game console business. A platform creates future demand. But unlike video games, we retain the physical collectible nature of our figurines. That will not go away. While much of the gaming has moved towards digital downloads, subscriptions, game passes, our business model remains highly productive for physical retail. That combination is powerful and also sought after. Retailers initially buy a toy, but they ultimately discover it's a category of its own. And because our platform is connected, and that's where the fun stuff starts now, we can help retailers also understand the value that install base in ways other brands that they carry cannot. So next slide is going to get a bit technical, so bear with me. Most retailers can tell you, how many boxes they sold. They can also tell you how many figurines they sold. But we can get one step further. We can connect those sales back, actually, to the activation behavior of the boxes from that retailer. So, retailer here, every box is 10,000 boxes, and every figurine is 100,000 figurines. So, 50,000 boxes, 500,000 figurines sold. They feel great at first glance. 10 Tonies per box is already really, really attractive attach rate. So, there's little reason, they do this with 4 feet, to expand space. But the activation data that we can show them tells a different story. Actually, in this example, yes, you have built this install base, but here's what. Your people, your customers, only bought 200,000 or activated 200,000 of the 500,000 Tonies you sold on their boxes. They actually purchased another 400,000 Tonies elsewhere. So the retailer actually served only 33% of that consumer demand. Shocking? The reason is simple. A typical 4-foot section can only carry 32 to 48 Tonies. But families quickly outgrow that assortment and begin purchasing additional characters elsewhere because the retailer simply does not stock them. So at roughly $20 per Tonie, this equals the missing demand of 400,000 Tonies, represents approximately 8 million euros potential retail sales flowing to other channels. That changes the conversation. What initially looked like a successful category, 10 Tonies per box, reveals a much larger opportunity hidden within the retailer's own install base. And that is how you grow from 4 feet to 8 feet to 12 feet at national retailer. The same data helps us also resolve a channel conflict. Because you're like, wait a second, where did the other 300,000 figurines go? Well, we can show, retailers sometimes worry about the growth of Amazon and Tonies.com. Using activation data, we can demonstrate how households move across channels and how the entire ecosystem contributes to the category growth. Just as importantly, the same retailer can see the 300,000 Tonies sold went to boxes purchased elsewhere. Happy about this. That realization changes also the conversation Because instead of viewing those channels purely as competitors, zero-sum game, retailers recognize the opportunity to capture ongoing content purchases from a much larger install base. And so they really want to leverage their unfair advantage, which is physical presence in many markets. So instead of arguing about which channel gets credit for a particular sale, the race really becomes serving as much of the install base as possible in their physical presence. That's the power of a connected device. So the result is that Tonies can actually win across all retail formats. It's also very special. I would say, most brands are really dependent on one or two dominant channels. Tonies is different here. Parents do not think in retail formats, right? They think about solving a need for their child. That allows Tonies to really show up wherever parents, but also gift givers, like grandparents already shop. Bookstores, Barnes & Noble in the US or Thalia in Germany. Mass retailers, talked about Walmart or Big W in Australia. Specialty stores, Smith Toys, huge chain here in the UK, France, and also Germany. F.A.O. Schwarz, Jewelry Club. Here in London, I would recommend that you actually go to John Lewis. We're in grocers, drugstores, pop-up concepts we tried, and even vending machines. So this significantly really expands our addressable distribution opportunity while reducing the dependence on any single channel. And there's another reason why Tonies' growth engine has proven so scalable across the markets and geographies. And here's what our retail relationships buy us globally. I talked about took us 5 years to get to target. That's forced Walmart's hand, went much quicker, 2 years. Now, it accelerates expansion everywhere else. The impact goes beyond. When we entered Australia and New Zealand, we basically covered directly 2 major retailers, both with 8 feet. And they watch closely how Target, Walmart allocate space to spot trends in their own markets. So within year 1, we secured 2 leading retailers. And together, they represented more than 80% of the local retail network almost immediately. The same happened also as we jumped from the US to Canada. So as I said before, success in the US shortens the path to scale everywhere else. The third channel is marketplaces. So if wholesale is about reach, Tonies.com is really about the engagement, collections. Marketplaces basically sit at this intersection. They help us acquire new households, strengthen customer lifetime value, and maintain also commercial control. When I say marketplaces, I mean mainly Amazon, which we operate, and that's important, as a third-party seller. But also local players like Cdiscount in France, or also Walmart.com in the US, where we supplement as a seller Walmart's owned inventory. Marketplaces work because they align perfectly with how modern parents shop. In the US, more than half of product searches start actually on Amazon. 70% of all adults in the US subscribe to Amazon Prime. That means we're on the phone. Like Tonies.com, Marketplace allow us to offer our full portfolio without shelf space constraints. And because we operate primarily as a third-party seller, like I said, we maintain control about pricing, assortment experience, and valuable customer insights. So, I've discussed the engine, but now I show you 3 boosters here. And I want to talk a little bit more. It's kind of our unfair competitive advantages. And these boosters are particularly powerful. First one is our app. Here we go, on the left side, our app. When you buy a Toniebox, you have to register the box. And actually, parents give us, in most cases, the child's age and also content preferences. That really allows us to put them on the customized journey all along the Tonies experience. The second one is our app. That was the first one. The second one is our first-party data. I showed you already how we use it with our retail partners. And, of course, we use it for customers, for better experience. And lastly, for the business. It helps us making better decisions all across forecasting and supply chain as well. Third one is our real-world fandom. We have live experiences. I mentioned already Lori Bergner in the US, but in Germany, you have Tonieboxes for museum tours, and in the UK, we took a London taxi to have Santa Claus deliver Tonieboxes to hospitals before the holiday season. So we engage our user base in real life experience, and that is really priceless. Together, these three advantages strengthen acquisition, increase engagement, and expand the customer lifetime value across the entire ecosystem. So each channel basically reinforces each other. That's the flywheel, and these advantages help it spin faster every time. Now, third chapter. So far, we discussed the engine. Question is, where do we go from here? So far, we're focused on what was built. A business spanning 5 markets, 10 countries, more than 12 million Tonieboxes sold, and a proven growth engine that has scaled across geographies. But we believe the opportunity ahead is significantly larger. Within our existing markets, we continue to see substantial room for growth in household penetration, distribution, awareness, and engagement. Beyond that, Tonies households already exist in more than 100 countries around the world, creating a really strong foundation for future expansion. In total, we estimate our addressable opportunity exceeds 570 million households globally. In short, significant growth opportunities both within our existing markets and in new geographies. The question is not whether there's room to grow. The question is where we go next and when. So, when we evaluate markets, we do this with 2 lenses. Strategic attractiveness, we check market size, language leverage, and competitive dynamics to maximize our reach. The other dimension is operational readiness. We look at our infrastructure, existing demand, and content localization to maximize ROI. Together, these criteria both determine where we go and when we go. Over time, we have developed 3 repeatable models for entering new markets. The first is a fully owned operation, as demonstrated in France. France is a really culturally distinct market, and they had an established player at the time. So we went head on, built local capabilities, localized the experience, and successfully competed. 4 years later, we won. On a gagné. The second is our adjacent expansion, as demonstrated in Canada, a market that is very similar to the US. While requiring French language capabilities also for Quebec, we support Canada from our existing organization in the US, allowing us to leverage teams, content, and infrastructure already in place. And the third one is the distributor-led model that we applied in Australia and New Zealand. It's highly efficient for us because we combine local expertise with our proven launch playbook and existing portfolio. 3 different market requirements, 3 different approaches. The principle remains the same. So for future launches, we'll continue to obviously invest in those launches, but each one will benefit from the capabilities, the content partnerships, and the experiences we have already built. Our road ahead, 1.4 billion, as Tobias said, by 2030. Importantly, that ambition does not require us to reinvent the model. It starts by continuing to grow the markets we already serve. Remember, DACH 58%, but only approximately 12% penetration in our second home market, the United States. Significant opportunities remain there across awareness, distribution, household, and engagement. Beyond our existing footprint, we see very attractive opportunities across Europe, across Latin America, of course, but also to expand further in Asia and Pacific. Tonieboxes are already used in many of these markets today. So what we share today, our ambition is basically 2 new markets by the end of 2027 and to be in all major regions by the end of 2030. The next chapter is not about building a new growth engine. It's about scaling what we already have. Our ambition is built on this proven growth engine. Over the last decade, we've proven that this model actually works. And importantly, that model and this engine also becomes stronger with every market we enter. Our data compounds, our operational playbook compounds, our licensor relationships compound, our localization capabilities compound, our distribution credibility compounds, most important and absolutely priceless, our fandom compounds. I believe we're still in the early chapters of the Tonies story. And by now, I hope I've convinced you of two things. First, the product is proven across markets, cultures, and also retail formats. And second, we have absolutely built a repeatable growth engine with the operational and commercial capabilities required to scale Tonies globally. The opportunity ahead is substantial, more than 1.4 billion euros in revenue and 16 to 18% EBITDA margin by 2030. So, after lunch, Hans-Jörg will walk you through the final model that underpins that ambition.
I hope you enjoyed the break. Wonderful London weather, 27 degrees I'm hearing, sun is shining. So when Tonies comes to London, London is actually giving back. Isn't that great? So now we have two more important agenda topics for all of you. You first hear from Hans-Jörg, our CFO, about our resilient financial model. And then we have Q&A where we will all four of us will be on stage and happily take your questions. With this, please welcome on stage Hans-Jörg Müller, CFO Tonies.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the last session. Before we open it up to your questions, actually, so before I take you through our resilient financial model, let me give you a bit of perspective on myself. Many of you already know me. For those who don't, I've spent my career in similarly strong ecosystem environments at EA, at Netflix. Both businesses are built on similarly strong cohort economics. The same mechanics you'll see a lot more of in the next 30 minutes. If there's one thing I learned, the key lesson I took from these experiences is the real strength was never a single product. It was always the ecosystem around it. And this is exactly what we have at Tonies in a strong and powerful way. And it is what drives our financials. So if you take nothing else away from the next 30 minutes, take these three things. One, and you've heard this now a couple of times, we are much more than a toy. We run an attractive, predictable, resilient ecosystem. Two, our track record. This is our confidence in our ambition. Three, what the ambition actually is. More than doubling revenue to 1.4 billion by 2030 and more than doubling profitability to 16 to 18% in the midterm. So, what to expect today? This is how I structured my session. First, the basics, how our ecosystem economics actually work. Then I'll get more into our track record, and then I'll deep dive into what to expect. So with that, let me introduce to you into our ecosystem flywheel. You've all been to a toy shop, right? You walk down the toy aisle. Most likely, you'll find a plastic toy. A very linear, short-lived, sometimes singular moment of joy. What we do at Tonies is different. We take the best out of toy. And with that, we touch so many areas at once. Sparking joy and magic moments, fostering child development, and for parents like some of us, giving a real sense of peace of mind. And I'll take that and combine that with the attractiveness of very specific business models. So in addition to toy, we reach into education. Think pocket Tonies, clever Tonies. And that's only the start of what a journey into learning could look like. We bring in technology, the box itself, the data library Christoph spoke about earlier. We bring in gaming. Think TonyPlay as the category innovation in audio gaming. And then, most importantly, the recurring pattern of media and streaming. In fact, more than what is shown on the slide here, with new content, we now just entering sports, as Ginny has shown you before. So yet another vector a classic toy can simply not deliver on. So summarizing, the box purchase is merely the entry into that ever-growing ecosystem. Let me get you one level closer to how our ecosystem economics behave. Namely, they're subscription-like, with purchase patterns that drive predictability. We manage cohorts. This is how the cohort model works. So what you're looking at here is the attach behavior of every cohort. The number of Tonies activated year by year for each year's intake. Take 2021 as an example. You see a year one purchase, a year two, a year three, a year four. The families who entered in 2021 bought a certain number of Tonies in that first year, and then it kept going. Now look across the vintages. The same year one purchase is more or less the same in 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. The year two purchase, again, is remarkably consistent, right? The year three purchase, the same. You get the idea, right? This is what consistency looks like, and that gives us predictability and resilience over time. What does that mean? We can plan and build our forecasts on cohort behavior we've now observed for years. And obviously, what's shown here is in units. The same is true for revenue. So, what does that mean? What does this tell us about the model? 4 things. First, it works anytime, as you can see here. Every cohort, every vintage shows similarly stable behavior. Second, it works everywhere. We saw this in DACH first. We saw the same kind of behavior and predictability when we launched in the US. Every market behaves subscription-like. What you see here in the chart is just a global aggregate of this. Third, the ecosystem compounds. A growing portfolio structurally feeds the cohort stability. With new formats, My First Tonies, Cuddle Tonies, Tony Play, Clever Tonies, they all add lifetime value to cohorts we already have, not just new ones. And then fourth, it's resilient against saturation. Newness is baked into the product's DNA. When we launch something like Bluey or Pokemon, which Ginny just showed you, the whole ecosystem feels new again to our families. Now that you've seen how the cohort model works, let me show you its longevity. Longevity starts with early entry. No device enters the child's room younger than Tonies. I only need one number to show you that. 79%. That's the share of children who get into Tonies aged 3 or younger. Now compare that to, for example, Amazon Alexa or Nintendo or Roblox. We are simply the first device in the child's room by several years. Why does that matter? Well, one, it's a blue ocean. It's hard for comparators to reach into that age group that early. Other devices aren't as built for the toddler's room and only become relevant at age 4 or even at 6+. So, moreover, this early entry precisely means high longevity. Boxes activated in 2016 can still be active today, and a significant share of them actually are. Last, it leaves us with the potential to extend on both ends. Right? My First Tonies, Toniebox 2, which is 1+ certified, moved us even younger than before. Clever Tonies, or Tony Play, they keep families longer. And while there's still room to go, it's a reality today that we already entered the room years before competition arrives. So this early capture compounds into real lifetime value. Now, let me connect the cohort economics with the longevity of that ecosystem. And I'll translate it into financial terms. Each bar here is 1 year's cohort, and the revenue that cohort generates over its life. I'll give you 2 examples. I'll talk to 2 examples. Take 2020. The families who joined 6 years ago are still generating revenue today. They've delivered much of their value, of course, already, but they haven't stopped. Not least, of course, because new formats and content keep them engaged throughout. Now take 2025, for example, a far larger cohort with almost all of its economic value still ahead of it. The bars get thicker every year because each cohort is bigger and more valuable than the last. And the revenue still to come from cohorts we have already acquired is more than 1 billion euros. Now factor in the cohorts we will have acquired by end of this year. You're looking at approximately 1.5 billion in revenue that we predict based on reliable cohort behavior. That is the essence of cohort-based economics. It is, some may even say, a quasi-bank's business. So I've shown you how the ecosystem economics work. Next part, let's look at the track record. Tobias already alluded to it. In net revenue terms, we've always delivered on what we promised. As we've grown from 188 million to the 630 million euros in net revenue, every single year we met or beat our guidance. We did that despite some significant headwinds. Of course, we guide on profitability as well, and we've always delivered on both of them, year over year. That delivery is impressive on its own. It's even more impressive against the backdrop. You've heard me talk last year about tariffs and component costs this year. But such headwinds didn't just arrive recently. For the last 5 and more years, we've had our fair share. Every single year. You see that little character at the top? That's a creative vampire, Tony. We put him on our internal slides whenever there's something scary on the horizon. But we all know we continuously delivered. The resilience of the business model is what delivered. But still, our little guy here has had more than a busy few years. 2021, COVID and global supply chain disruption. 2022, the war in Ukraine, inflation, consumer sentiment crisis. 2023, the Middle East crisis, raw material price hike. 2024, inflation, consumer caution again. 2025, tariffs, FX headwinds, still cautious consumers. So through every year of it, the model held. Reliable, growing, and more profitable. You all know what 2025 looked like. An extensive new tariff regime on top of everything else. And still we delivered. So let me show you the toolkit behind that resilience. At the top, the installed base flywheel. Our large fan base kept purchasing subscription-like right through it. Then supply chain, a flexible setup with fast ramp-up of our Vietnam capacity to diversify box supply. Incredible agility shown by our teams. Next, pricing, a measured, well-communicated response which limited impact on volumes. This is the commercial firepower we have earned as a business. Lastly, design to value, continuous improvement across our cost base to counterbalance the pressure. And the result in a year like that, net revenue up 36% at constant currency, adjusted EBITDA up 50% year on year. 1 new flagship platform launched successfully, 3 new above-the-box formats prepared, 2 of which landed successfully in 2025, with Tony Play and My First Tonies, and Cuddle Tonies, which we launched in 2026. So really remarkable. That brings me to the third and final part, what to expect. What are we aiming for? Right? What you were probably all staying for even after lunch. Let's unpack it. We already shared the ambition earlier today. 2025, we did 630 million euros in net revenue at 8.6% adjusted EBITDA margin. By 2030, we target more than 1.4 billion, just to repeat, at a midterm margin of 16 to 18%. That is more than doubling revenue, over 2.2 times, and it's expanding margin by more than 1.9 times versus 2025. I'll let you do the math of multiplying these effects through. But what's driving this? Let's start with the top line. By 2030, as I said, we target the 1.4 billion. It's a 17% compound annual growth rate from here. It has 3 building blocks. First, the existing business. Most of the growth comes from the core. Existing products in existing markets, growing the install base, driving the flywheel. While product innovation and new launches are exciting and provide us with additional potential, it's comforting to know that much of what we aim for is actually coming from the predictable engine we already have today. Second, new devices and attached innovation drive additional growth. Toniebox Lite is just another step in this sense. And third, new market launches. They contribute meaningfully. You've heard Christoph say today, we'll add 2 next year, but they will take time to ramp, time to build the flywheel, and we have planned for that. So now let's turn to the bottom line. Our ambition is to bring adjusted EBITDA to around 16 to 18% midterm, a clear step up where we are today. I'll come to the contributing factors to that step up next. Gross margin will remain a key lever for future EBITDA improvement. There's mainly 3 drivers behind it. First, the product mix. This is the flywheel again. As the installed base grows and attach grows faster still, how? 20 Tonies for 1 box on average. Margin improves naturally. Second, structural cost improvements. Major efficiency program across products, design to value, supply chain design, and more. Third, our commercial and production levers. A stable response setup with sourcing flexibility, proven highly effective last year. Let's pause. It's noteworthy that we expand gross margin, and with awareness of how external factors, component costs, inflation, tariffs, and more, have been working against us the past years. But as we bring it together, how do we get from here to there on EBITDA? So the first building block. Around half of the EBITDA margin step up will come from gross margin improvement, what I just explained on the previous slide. Contributing to this are again the natural product mix improvement and further product innovation. In the second building block, roughly the other half is coming from operating leverage. What do we mean by operating leverage? Structural improvements to the underlying business. As we scale effects, we become more efficient on many fronts. Our brand works harder for us. And the third, also important building block, while we drive for efficiency, we also retain our focus on growth. This EBITDA ambition also ensures the funding of the initiatives we've shared with you today. Let me move to a slightly different topic. I want to point out the nature of the CapEx-light nature of our business. Tonies is, and we aim that to continue, a CapEx-light business by design. Right? We have no own manufacturing. The production backbone sits to a large degree with our suppliers. We have no own distribution. We go through 3PLs. and third-party retail. No warehouse fleet, no store network, and our hardware is durable and long cycle. Generational updates are infrequent, so the tooling and the R&D investment stays relatively low. Now, what do we do with all this success? How do we allocate capital? I think will be one of your questions. For now, the best home for our capital is the growth in front of us, guided first and foremost by reinvestment into the core. This means organic growth and ecosystem scaling. So reinvest to expand internationally and to fund that high margin innovation that grows lifetime value. Moreover, there's a second important aspect to this. It's balance sheet resilience. Right? Keep leverage low, use our cash to self-fund the growth, maintain flexibility. There will be, of course, opportunities once the ecosystem sustainably generates more and more and more cash to allocate. And we'll pursue these opportunities, like always, with a clear vision and discipline. But for now, we don't have plans to share buybacks or dividends or the likes. So before I close, a few things that you should know about this plan. On product, every planned innovation from box to attach is reflected in the ambition we stated. On internationalization, the planned velocity of new market launches through 2030 is reflected too. On efficiencies, we've reflected our full efforts to manage the bottom line, from cost of goods sold to operating leverage, with no dedicated AI efficiency gains yet priced in. So we might wonder, some further upside, right? You might be thinking about inorganic growth, faster rollout, unconfirmed launches is explicitly not yet in these numbers. So let me bring it all together with what gives me confidence in this plan. First, our subscription-like economics that I've shown you. They give us predictability. With around 1.5 billion of future revenue still outstanding just from already existing cohorts and those we will acquire until the end of this year. Second, the margin expansion is structural. The operating leverage is only one aspect. A large part of it is almost inevitable as the install base scales. And third, we have a proven playbook, tested, repeatable, adaptable business levers that drive that resilience. Lastly, capital discipline and strong profitability levers fund the next phase. This plan isn't based on needing capital raises or changing capital structure. The model funds itself. And of course, looking at the stellar team today on stage, we have another reason that this ambition is more than realistic to achieve. With this, thank you. I look forward to your questions. But before I go there, Tobias for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Hans-Jörg. Thank you, Ginny. Thank you, Christoph. Let's wrap this up. These are the things we would like you to take home from this very first Capital Market Days here in London. You heard us talking about three things repeatedly over the last couple hours. Number one, build an ecosystem that compounds value. Right? We had introduced you to Toniebox Lite. Ginny spoke about our content portfolio and everything that actually surrounds that. Very important first point of our strategy. Secondly, win internationally, US first. I think Christoph made it really, really clear how we got there in North America and what are some of the unique strengths that only we have that we can now apply as we continue to further internationalize our business. And how that, and I say it again, this word, compounds over time. Australia was a great example of us applying all the learnings of all the previous market launches, and you could see the effect there. Third, extend our story of reliable, profitable growth. Hans-Jörg took you deeper into our numbers. We have revealed our midterm ambition of 1.4 billion in revenues by 2030, and also, obviously, the 16 to 18% adjusted EBITDA margin that goes with that. And this is all built on our subscription-like cohorts that, again, compound. Think of the quasi-bank business that we have shown to you. And the last thought I want to kind of make sure you take home is, yes, this is hopefully very clearly showing you we are not your average toy. We are much, much more than that. And there's so much more for us to obviously go after. And allow me a fourth point that is not on the screen. What makes me extremely confident about us delivering all this is our fantastic team that we have here at Tonies. Over 600 very motivated people that show up every single day to make this happen in Germany, in the UK, in France, in North America, in Australia, and probably in a few more countries down the road. So thank you very much for joining us here in London at the Science Museum. Thank you very much, everyone on the screen. I know there's been a lot of you, and thank you for your patience as we went through the day. We're opening up for Q&A now. So I would like to ask, first of all, Moritz, our head of IR, back on stage, and then also my colleagues, Ginny, Christoph, and Hans-Jörg. And then we open up for questions, and hopefully we'll have them time for an informal chat after. Thank you very much. And we have two wonderful colleagues here, left and right, with microphones in their hands. So please raise your hand, and then either Vinny or Josefina will bring you a microphone, and we'll try to actually capture the priority of the hands going up. I think you've been first. Can you maybe quickly introduce yourself and then ask the question?
Sure. My name is Mohsin. I'm from Edel Capital. In the release this morning, you disclosed that your penetration in Germany was at 58%, which is really, really high. So my question is, number one, are you surprised at how high that penetration number is? Number one. Number two, can it go higher? And number three, how replicable is that 58% across your other key geographies?
Fantastic question. Thank you very much. No, I'm not surprised. Obviously, I've seen this number growing over the last couple of years. And so I'm just convinced that this number is something that we can, to a degree, also take as a target for other markets. Probably not at the exact same height. I mean, if you look at the US business, I would always say this is a great aspiration, but the North American market works differently, right? I mean, it has different listening behaviors. It has also different media consumption behaviors. It's a lot more diverse market, but it's clear, hopefully by today, that the 12% that we have in North America is really, as Christoph had also said, just the beginning, right? But let's also say, I mean, Germany is our home market. Home markets behave slightly different, but it's also our hero market, and we'll take what we have in Germany, all the learnings, and apply it in other markets. The important thing that I find the really important fact that makes us all very proud about our core market, DACH, is the growth we see in this established market. The 26% year-over-year growth in Q1 of 2026. This is probably what I would like you to take away. Maybe one from this side, Gerhard.
Yeah, no, Gerhard from Bernberg. You said that the partnership with Bluey and Pokemon was exclusive. and I don't think that was the case historically, where Disney would go along several platforms. Can you tell us how this came about, how defensible this is, and why they have chosen to be exclusive with you?
Jenny, you want to take that?
Absolutely. So for both partnerships, two factors to think about. Obviously, when they look at this space, they see Tony's as a leader. So while others are asking, they are not responding. The second piece is, as we shared, all the content we create is exclusive to that platform. So while there will be Pokemon on different platforms like Audible or experiences like this is what we will own with families. And those two pieces are becoming more and more critical to our partners in who they select and how they want to establish these relationships long term.
Yep.
Hello, my name is Russell Poynton from Edison. Two questions. First of all is on the product. I'd just be interested to find out what was the most important feature that surprised you on the launch of the second box. And the second question was on the presentation on the US, you talked about the population size and the relative lifetime spend as 1.5. Could you talk about the factors that build into that 1.5? Is it just a reflection of relative wealth, that type of thing? And perhaps link that into how you think about future markets. Is it that, I assume you're going to go for the markets where the spend per customer is probably likely to be higher?
Yeah, great. I'd suggest I take the first one, you take the second one. So the feature that surprised us, to use your word, surprise, maybe it's not the right word, on Tonybox 2, obviously, you heard me saying this a couple times. We had and still have, obviously, Tonybox 1. It's still used in millions of households. It's a wonderful product. It works every single day. Every stat you see, is mostly driven, obviously, from Tonybox 1. So we always said the time we are going to launch a new box would be a time when we think we have a real innovation. So not just round shapes or something like that. Really, we wanted to bring something new. And so that was the time. The time was there last year when we felt everything is ready for Tony Play. Interactive audio gaming. Another category we created. And surprise or not, whatever word you want to take, the way Tony Play is now landing in households is really amazing. And we like that. It's the games that we have, the quality of the games, the level of interaction, the adoption of this relatively young category is really, really good. And that's, by the way, something that only works on Tonybox 2. Chris, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Russell. You picked on those numbers. So first, to the 1.5 times, that includes toy, entertainment, and educational product. And that's the intersection that, we consider ourselves. And I think the different spending habits, of course, not just only geographically, but also socioeconomic in every market. So at the end of the day, when you say like how it influences future selection, as I said, we optimize for reach. We are the next million users, and then we balance this with ROI, what's for us the most effective way to ultimately reach them. And I think with that, there are plenty of pockets around the world in different formats that we can reach.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Russell.
Hello, I'm Jeff from First Generation. This question's for Jenny. I thought the superfan engagement metrics were really interesting. I'm curious if you've learned anything around the inputs that are controllable by Tony that can result in a greater number of superfans. And then I'm also interested as to whether you know what the daily activations are for the product as a percentage of total activations, just how much is an actual daily habit for the install base.
Happy to answer those. I don't have the daily activations, so I'll get back to you on that. But for the super fans, what we've seen is some of those triggers. Obviously, we shared the Sleep Tony statistic with you, which obviously enables that deeper engagement. And we also see a lot in terms of how quickly they acquire Tony's in the first year as really being the signal in how they will deepen their relationship. And the last is the content diversity. So it's very easy, I think, if you don't have a little listener in your life to think, a figurine's a figurine. No, it is not. So you really have to represent the right characters, the right stories, the right environments, and that is also a key signal we see.
Sorry, Christian here.
Hi, Christian from New Ways. I have a question. So on the figurines that you sell per Tonybox after 4.5 years, all this data is based on TB1. Would you expect this to be any different with TB2?
I think it's another one for you. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I'm happy to, but everyone feel free to join in. We see no signals of why that would change. If anything, there is more growth opportunity with TB2.
Higher.
So obviously we've talked about play, the excitement in that whole different category, which again is accretive. It's not replacing the figurines. It's another way, another time of day, another occasion to interact with your Tonybox. So we see exciting future there.
If I may ask another one on the US, I mean, basically it seems like all the building blocks are already in place, right? You're at all the relevant retailers, your brand recognition is really strong. So do you have to do much more to get to the number one and maybe double sales? Or is it basically just, you just have to wait for the cohorts actually to convert into Tony figurine sales?
Christoph?
I mean, it's great. In the US, we basically just roll out of bed and then the rest happens for itself. I think your observation is pretty good in the sense of, like, as I mentioned, the pump is primed, the distribution channel is there. The numbers we also post are significant in that sense. The native install base, that model that I shared with you of also how much basically every retailer has almost hooked themselves in. I think the retailer would have a really hard problem right now to take Tonies off or reduce because their own install base would be like, hey, where are the Tonies, right? So, but hey, it's also, as I said earlier, one of the most competitive markets. It's one where you compete for mind share with parents like in no other. So we want to defend it, and our work is not done. Does that help? Yep. Good.
In the back.
Hi, it's Peter from Pictet. Could you guys talk a little bit about the roadmap for sports and what to think about that? It seems like a very big area that there's a lot to do, so I'd love to understand a little bit how you're tackling such a big opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I love to talk about sports all the time, but then she also says, come on, save yourself. So you probably take that before I get too excited, because I am super excited about sports.
So hopefully you've seen in the portfolio today, there is sports content in our Pocket Tonies, which we know consumers love. We also have a Tony Play sports game out in Germany right now where you can battle, bring that competitive energy you may have to Tony Play. And so with those initial experiences, again, we are testing new formats in different ways. That also, with our growth, has triggered a lot of conversations from different leagues, whether in the US or in Germany or across Europe, who obviously see this fandom as something that is very important to the family. And a lot of the sports companies are focusing on building their brands at the earliest years. So there's tremendous synergies, nothing we will announce today, but we're very excited at the roadmap of different kinds of experiences we could create together.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Stuart Brown, private investor. My one-year-old son is delighted about the news of Bluey coming to Tonybox. He would like to know when that will start shipping in the UK. And also, Bluey, you've gone with the figurines as a 3-pack, I believe, retailing at the pricing I've seen $70 in the US. What does that say about the pricing power and Bluey, the character, that you've gone with a 3-figurine pack at a higher price point than is traditionally the case for the average figurine?
Yeah, fandom. Look, we realized when we worked also with our retail partners and all this that, the individual figurine is $20. So we retail it at 3 times, $60. And ultimately, that was almost avoid that there's a higher price point giftable item. So it actually, and we've started to build this more and more because right now, as a gift giver, you give the 100 or above 100, And then you are like with $30 items. So we wanted, and we felt Bluey is also, if there's an IP, then that's a great one to introduce that. The commercial aspect, there's also planning aspects to that, but we're very excited about it.
Delivery?
Sorry?
Delivery date for his son. He cannot come home without.
Lucia, you can help us out.
Yes.
Lucia? So for those who couldn't hear, Lucia, by the way, our general manager for the UK here at Tony's, mid-August for a pre-order date, right? The US?
The US has now also, to strengthen our relationship, we have a first-to-market experience with Target on July 19th, starting there, and then the other retailers will join us a little bit.
In pre-order.
And pre-order is on right now. So yes, you can go on tonies.com and also at Target and pre-order right now. Yes, Sally.
Hi there, Trevor Fitzgerald from Mirabel Asset Management. Just a follow-up question, a bit of housekeeping about the lifetime value of the cohorts. You've got a number there of 1 to 1.5 billion, but that's a pretty wide range for something you've got a very good idea of. Why so wide a range? And when it comes to lifetime value, what's your definition of that lifetime? Remember, is that 4.5 years before?
Hans-Jörg.
I'll give it a shot. The reason why there is a range, 1 to 1.5 billion, is because the 1 billion is associated with the cohorts that we have already acquired, whereas the 1.5 is associated with the additional cohort that we expect to acquire throughout this year. The main difference that describes the ends of both ranges.
Well, there was a second part of it, or?
The lifetime value before we had 4.5 years, or was that there was a time on, because obviously a lifetime is a long time.
Yeah, we usually express, this is in simplified terms to make this easy to communicate and understand, 20 Tonys per box through a 4.5-year period. Of course, that's more than 20 if the lifetime is longer, but that's the easiest and I think most adequate number to compute or model with.
Thank you for the question. More questions from the room? Oh, there, now the hands goes up. Maybe we go over here real quick for you, Ramon. Microphone's coming.
Ramon Huber from Lima Capital in Zurich. So I have a question for all of you. You have to be ready, and I'm going to see who is raising the first hand. Who will still work at Tony's in 2030? I think Tobias was the first.
But I also extended my contract the first.
I know.
That's a nice one.
Yes.
Good afternoon, it's Thomas from Premier Miton. Given you're officially in 10 countries but unofficially in 100, you obviously tolerate a bit of a grey market. But I just wonder how you feel about the grey market in general, in particular as you launch the new box. And given its selective launch, there's a risk of it being transmitted across borders, maybe more than you're currently comfortable with your existing portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you. Not worried at all. I honestly say this. I mean, we've received this question before. We looked at the data ourselves. Let me give you some real interesting perspective. When we look at gray, you call it gray market, you could say second market, second-hand market, right? There's an interesting data point here. If you buy your box, and usually that second-hand market box comes with an assortment of Tonys, there's an interesting thing to watch. Kids, households with a second-hand market box immediately have a higher listening time than someone who probably buys a new box with only 1 or 2 figurines. And I think by now, after this day, you know why. Because they have immediately some more figurines they can actually select from. The probability that they find something that they're really hooked with is higher. Secondly, and I think we also referred this a couple times throughout the day, we have this built-in newness, freshness. I think you had also expressed this so nicely. The ecosystem feels new almost every day, because every day there is something new coming. And I can tell you, when there is the new Moana movie coming to the box offices, whether you have actually a second market or a first market box, that kid wants to listen to that Tony the moment the movie releases in the cinema. So the buying pattern of Tonies is similar. So we actually look at a secondary market box as something that completely works in our favor. And so this is why I'm also not at all worried about this box having any cannibalization effect on this box or any other box or market. But love the question. Thank you. Yeah, Hardy.
The gross profit margin is one of your key levers for the margin improvement. Just a question about the memory prices currently. I think they're hitting Nintendo quite hard. How are you looking into memory prices this year, next year, and how can you deal with that?
Yeah. Maybe let me start off with this year. The memory price dynamic is included in our guidance, and our ambition, that 2030 or midterm target that we expressed, is based off of today's market prices, basically priced in. Of course, as I've already alluded to in the earnings calls, we have a toolkit, right, of maneuverability. We have experience, knowledge, and production capacity for different technologies in terms of memory chips, and we can switch depending on which market prices break out or not. So that's the first. Then we have, of course, our long lead inventory buys and our existing inventory. Last resort, as always, we have the pricing power that we demonstrated should we need it.
Can you guys just flesh out a little bit the reason why you guys have a very wide moat around your business? i.e., what's going to stop any other competitor from, stealing some of the growth that you guys have lined up nicely in front of you from a market standpoint? How is it that you're going to retain your market share and protect yourselves against any potential threats, competitors?
Yeah. I hope you have actually seen it at some point throughout the day, right? We have various ways how we look at our competitive moats. The number one moat is the 12 million boxes and the ever-accelerating flywheel in, obviously, boxes getting into households. And let me be very clear. The 12 million boxes that we have in households today, is actually over 12 million as we speak, is something that we have built over the lifetime of 10 years. When Patrick and the team started in 2016, obviously that was the first commercial moment for us in the fourth quarter of 2016. And then look at, we are showing this in many of the interactions with you, every fourth quarter, we are actually making a significant jump in box activations, because fourth quarter for us is box quarter. And this is because, obviously, Christmas and Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all these events that we have, and you cannot compress this. It's hard to compress this. So we are going to continue, obviously, growing, and we're looking back at 10 years of execution of that growth. Number one. Number two, the content library. I think by now it's clear. We are creating amazing content, unique content. We talked about some exclusivity that we have on some of the leading IPs in the world. Number three, our international expansion strategy. There is no global competitor, period. There is no company that is in all the markets that we are in. And we are planning to literally release the brake and grow significantly faster in more markets. So, and then let me actually finish with one thought. You saw the number as well today. 570 million households in our age range, as a households with kids in our age range. That is a number we are really going after. So competition might be interesting for some of you, and it is to a degree also for us, but we look really forward and we see this huge opportunity, this blue ocean, to actually use your word, that we still can go after. So I'm extremely confident about the growth strategy and the moats that we've built.
Last question?
Yes, maybe one more question from you.
Hi, Stuart Brown again. At what point does a Hasbro or a Mattel, particularly given some of you and your colleagues' recent career experience, at what point do those companies decide to stop licensing out and just decide to take the company themselves?
Take the company?
Take
Tony's. Yeah.
Oh.
As in buy you out.
I mean, first of all, I can't comment on Hasbro's strategy, and I'm pretty sure Ginny wouldn't either. You would need to look and talk to them about it. I want to make one thing very clear, and I really mean it, and I say this for all four of us here on the stage. Look, when I say we are building a global icon, and we have a generational opportunity to build a global icon, I'm not actually looking at someone taking us out, to use your words, in the next 1 or 2 years. We have an opportunity here at Tony's to actually create something generationally, and we are here on stage for the years to come to actually take that opportunity. Thank you. Thank you very much for the great questions. Thank you for coming. For those in the room, please mingle with us now, and over a coffee we have this beautiful, as we call it, immersion room over there, where you can actually just get a feeling of how Tony's really work in our day-to-day life with our customers. Thanks again. Thanks everyone on the screens. It was great, and talk to you soon.